In today's tutorial, we are going to talk about what Async Await is in Swift and how you can make use of it in your iOS projects, day-to-day iOS projects. So let's begin by creating a new project in Xcode. So we'll create a single view application. I'm giving it a name of Swift Async Await. So let me first give you a quick brief of what I'm trying to do here. So I have already created a tutorial on how to write an HTTP using completion handlers. So similar to that, in this tutorial I am going to write the same HTTP utility but using async await. So while you can also compare with the completion handler, you will get a better understanding how async await works. So let's begin. Let's begin by adding a button. Let's give it a name of login. Let's quickly give it a background, something better. This looks better. Okay. Let's open assistant editor. We will create an action. So I have already created a dummy API in the back end. So that API will actually take something like a JSON object. The JSON object is going to be like this. So basically it's a login API that will not take any input, but it will give you back an output of a username and password. So it's just a dummy API. So I will create a model for the save for storing the output from that API. So let's create a structure, login view model, make it a decodable. It will have an ID of type string. So all this whatever I'm typing here is going to be the result from the API. We'll have a username, first name and last name. All of these are optionals. So this will be a part of login result model. This is also going to be decodable. So I'm not going to get inside what decodable is. It will have a result and it will have a data. This is of type login view model which we just created above. So far so good. Now let's begin by creating that HTTP utility file. So I'll create a new file, Swift file, give it a name of HTTP utility. Now first, what happened to my mouse? So now let's first create a class, giving it the name of HTTP utility. This will conform to NS object. Now let's give it a mark also. API request method using async await. So now I'm going to create a function which is very similar to the one I created before in the last tutorial, but that was using completion handler. This time I'm going to use async await. So I'll create API request with async await. So similar to the last, this will also have a URL string. which will be of type string. Then parameters, this is going to be of type string and string. The method will be again a string. So now some things I'm going to write here, don't worry, I'll explain it later on. So I'll just make it an async function and it will throw, and this function is going to return us this login result model. So now let's first create our URL. Ignore the Xcode errors for now. This will be using the string we already have here, and this will also throw, so because we have marked it as a cardlet. So after creating the URL, we'll create the request URL request. We'll pass in the URL here which we just created. Now we will give this request URL an HTTP method. The method is going to be coming from here. Now like I told you just a while back, I am going to pass it in the parameters. I am going to pass it JSON object which will have something like which. So this is like which API to be called, and then this is the login. So to the backend I am going to pass this parameters. So for that only I'll create an HTTP body. I'll use JSON serialization dot data with JSON object. Here I'll pass the parameters. So parameters will be this. So this is also going to return login result model. Now request URL dot HTTP body, we are going to pass in the HTTP body we just created. Now request URL dot, we are going to set it as application JSON, the type, the content type. HTTP content type. Now we will create a URL session as before, but this is something that you will have to note down something. So like previously, we will also create a URL session. Where is that? This URL session dot shared. This is going to be a singleton. But the different thing here now begins. So so remember we used to do a session.data task in the case of completion handler, but wherever we are planning to use async await, we have another method by the name of data, and you can see we have this async throws here, so we will be using this one. So here we will pass the request URL, and wait a second, anything wrong I have done? No, it's correct. So yeah, now we will have to mark it with try await. So it is saying cannot convert value of type URL request to. What wrong have I done here? Well, so far everything looks okay to me. Let's continue. If anything comes, we'll see it later. So let HTTP response, this will be response as HTTP URL response. Let status code equals HTTP response dot status code. We'll need to use optional chaining here. So I'll just print the response here. Now this part is same as before. JSON decoder dot decode login result model dot self, and the data will be passing here. Then return the JSON object. So far so good, but let's see why this is not accepting this. Okay, found it. So this is method is not this. This is for your request. Sorry for the delay. So now this is the method by which we are using the async await. Now let me also paste the method which we wrote before using completion handler. So let me paste that method here. So this is the method which we previously wrote using completion handler there. So as you can see, wherever completion handler, here we are passing the completion handlers. So compared to that, in the case of async await, what we have to do is wherever we are creating a function which we think it is going to be an asynchronous function, there we are going to pass it as async, this keyword async. Then wherever we are getting the response from that asynchronous call, we will use this keyword await. So now let's make use of this function and see how it works. So we have this login button here. So one thing I would like to tell you that whenever we make use of async await, either that function, whichever function is calling that async await, needs to throw, or in that case, or else in that case we can use this task. So this task will be marked within do catch block. So this will also be marked using try await. Now here we will going to call that method. URL string would be let me just first make those strings. So URL string would be, let me first copy paste that. And the parameters that we are passing is this. So again, here we'll pass URL string, parameters would be param, method is post. Now in this case, we're getting the result, and this is the same login result model. Now let's go by printing this. So result dot data. Now let's run the application. What's running on my real device? Let's use a simulator here. So here is our application. It's still loading. Now let me put a break here so that you get to see that it is being called. So I'll click on the login button. I have got an HTTP response, and this is going to print the result data which we are getting from the API call. So there you go. This is example of how we can make use of async await in a API call. I hope this is simple enough and gives you a clear understanding. So thank you and see you guys again. Bye bye.